she cried silently for months. He didn't notice until the day he saw fear in her eyes instead of love. That was the day their story restarted, not with romance, but with regret. Ethan Walker had always been the kind of man who stayed quiet even when life got loud. At 34, he carried himself with a calm, steady confidence that came from surviving his own storms. His tall frame, sharp jawline, and quiet personality made him stand out without him even trying. People respected Ethan, admired him, but no one really knew him, not deeply, not truly. He was the type of man who kept his emotions behind a locked door and threw away the key. He lived in the outskirts of Charleston, South Carolina, a place where the streets smelled like sweet magnolia and the evenings melted into soft orange sunsets. Ethan spent most of his time working as a renovation contractor, restoring old houses and giving them life again. Funny how he could fix everything except the mess inside his own chest. He didn't date much, he didn't socialize much, he didn't open up much. Life had made him that way, carefully guarded, quietly wounded, emotionally disciplined. But that was before she came into the picture. Lila Summers, 29, was the opposite of Ethan in every possible way. She was bright, graceful, soft-voiced, and carried warmth like sunlight in early spring. She had just moved from Chicago after ending a long, draining relationship that left her feeling more alone than when she started. Her mother owned an old lakeside cabin near Charleston, and Lila had come to stay there for a while, maybe a week, maybe a month, maybe longer. She wasn't sure. When she first stepped out of her car with messy curls, jeans, a peach-colored sweatshirt, and eyes full of exhaustion, Ethan happened to be working on a neighbor's porch. He looked up for a second, just a second, and something in him paused. He hadn't felt that kind of stillness in a long time. Lila noticed him too. Noticing him felt inevitable. Ethan nodded politely. Lila smiled softly, the kind of smile that felt honest, unforced. "Hi," she said. "Hey," he replied. That was it. Nothing dramatic, nothing loud. Just a small beginning, simple and almost forgettable, except they both remembered it. 2 days later, Lila knocked on Ethan's workshop door. He wasn't expecting visitors. When he opened it and saw her holding a broken antique lamp in her hands, he raised a brow. "Sorry to bother you," she said, slightly embarrassed. "This lamp belonged to my grandmother, but the wiring is old and it just won't turn on. My mom told me you were the go-to guy for fixing anything." Ethan wiped his hands on a cloth. "I don't usually repair lamps," he said. She smiled again. "But you could try, right?" And God help him, he couldn't say no to that smile. He took the lamp gently. "Give me a day." "Thank you," she whispered. She said it so softly that Ethan felt something inside him shift. Fixing the lamp took him less than an hour, but he waited until the next evening to return it, not because he needed time, but because he needed a reason. When he handed it back, Lila looked genuinely surprised. "That was fast." It wasn't too complicated, Ethan replied. She plugged it in, and the lamp lit up beautifully, casting golden patterns across the walls. Something about that warm glow made the room feel suddenly alive. Wow, she breathed. This feels like home again. Ethan cleared his throat awkwardly. Well, glad I could help. Lila looked at him for a moment, really looked. Do you want to stay for coffee? Ethan froze. He wasn't used to being invited. He wasn't used to saying yes. But for the first time in years, his heart answered before his words. Sure. Coffee, laughter, silent, confessions. They sat near the lake-facing window, each with a mug in hand. Lila talked about Chicago, her art career, her heartbreak. Ethan listened quietly, attentively absorbing every detail like it mattered. What about you? She asked. He hesitated. There's not much to tell. There's always something to tell, she said gently. He stared at his coffee. I've learned to keep things private. Lila didn't push him. That's okay, she said. You can tell me whenever you want, or never. It's your choice. Most people demanded more. She didn't. That was the moment Ethan realized he wanted her around. Her presence felt peaceful, grounding, familiar in a way he couldn't explain. They talked for hours. They laughed. They shared quiet moments that said more than words ever could. When Ethan finally got up to leave, Lila walked him to the door. Thank you again, she said softly. Anytime, Ethan replied. But what he really meant was, I don't want this to end. Over the next week, they saw more of each other, sometimes intentionally, sometimes accidentally, sometimes because the universe had its own plans. They fixed the garden fence together. They made dinner together once, pasta, burnt garlic bread, too much laughter. They sat by the lake and watched the sunset without speaking, letting silence be their language. Lila's presence slowly became a part of Ethan's daily routine, the part he looked forward to the most. She didn't try to change him. She didn't question his quietness. She just existed in his space gently, warmly, beautifully. And Ethan. He felt something awakening in him, something he thought he had buried years ago. Love. Real, terrifying, overwhelming love. But feelings come with fear. One night, as they walked near the lake, Lila asked softly, Ethan, what are we? He stopped walking, completely. His chest tightened, his breath uneven. He wasn't ready for labels. He wasn't ready to open old wounds. He wasn't ready to risk losing control of his heart again. I don't know, he finally said. I'm not good at this. Good at what? Letting people in. Lila's eyes softened. I'm not asking you to open everything. I'm just asking you not to push me away. But Ethan didn't answer. Not because he didn't want her. God knows he wanted her more than anything, but because wanting someone meant risking everything. She took a step closer. You don't have to be scared of me. He swallowed hard, looking away. It's not you. is me." Those were the exact words Lila had heard from her ex, the same words that broke her before. Her chest tightened painfully. "Oh," she whispered. Ethan looked at her, regretting his words instantly. "I didn't mean it like that." "It's okay," she said, but her voice cracked. That crack shattered Ethan. For the next 2 days, Lila didn't come outside. No lake walks. No coffee invitations. Nothing. Ethan felt the emptiness instantly. Her absence was louder than any noise. He replayed their conversation over and over, hating himself for hurting her, hating himself for being a coward. Finally, on the 3rd night, he walked to her cabin and knocked. When Lila opened the door, her eyes were tired, beautiful, but tired. "Hey," he said quietly. "Hi. I shouldn't have walked away that night," he said. "You deserved better." Lila stayed silent. Ethan exhaled deeply, a man about to open a door he'd kept locked for years. "I'm scared because you matter," he said slowly. "You matter more than I expected, and that terrifies me." Lila's breath caught. "I'm not good with emotions," he went on, "but I don't want to lose you. Not now, not ever." Her eyes softened again, warm, hopeful. "Then don't push me away," she whispered. "I'm trying," Ethan replied, voice breaking. "I want to be someone who doesn't run when things get real." She took his hand gently, carefully, and he didn't pull away. For the first time, he didn't pull away. Lila stepped closer, placing her right hand on his chest. Ethan froze, not in fear, but in awe. "Your heart is loud," she whispered. His voice trembled. "It's loud because it's finally awake." This time, she didn't smile. She just looked at him deeply, emotionally, as if memorizing the moment. And Ethan leaned down, slowly, carefully, respectfully. Their foreheads touched, first a quiet, intimate moment that felt more powerful than a kiss. Then finally his lips met hers, soft, warm, hesitant, and then deeper as he let go of everything he'd been holding inside. It wasn't a kiss of beginning. It was a kiss of release, a kiss of surrender, a kiss of truth. When they pulled apart, Lila whispered, "Ethan, don't disappear again." He held her hand tighter. "I won't." But fate had other plans. The days after that emotional morning shifted something deep inside both Ethan and Ava, though neither of them fully understood what it meant. Ethan had walked out the door with renewed determination, the weight of guilt still pressing his chest, but now mixed with a different fire, a desire to rebuild what he had almost destroyed without even realizing it. And Ava felt her heart shaking between fear and hope, unsure which direction her life was steering her toward. Outside, the sky was a heavy shade of gray, clouds swollen with unfallen rain, the kind of weather that mirrored emotions instead of seasons. Ethan drove toward town, hands gripping the steering wheel, mind replaying every word Ava said. You forgot how to be gentle with my heart. The line carved itself into him again and again. He stopped outside a small coffee shop, a warm wooden place on the corner of Maple Street, its windows fogged from morning conversation and espresso steam. Ethan pushed the door open, letting a soft bell ring overhead. He didn't want coffee. He wanted answers, or maybe forgiveness, or maybe courage. Even he didn't know. He sat by the window, staring at his reflection in the glass. He didn't see the strong, confident man he once believed himself to be. He saw someone who had let anger become his second language. Someone who knew how to fix engines, but not hearts. Someone who could work through 12-hour shifts, but couldn't manage a simple conversation without raising his voice. And yet, somewhere inside him, he also saw someone who loved deeply, maybe too deeply. Rough morning? The barista asked gently as she placed a cup of coffee in front of him, even though he hadn't ordered anything. You could say that, he exhaled. You look like someone who wants to fix something, she added. Ethan managed a tired smile. Yeah, my marriage. She nudged the cup toward him. Then start with this. Fixing a heart requires patience. Sometimes silence helps more than words. He nodded. Strange how wisdom sometimes came from strangers. Back at home, Ava walked slowly around the living room, touching objects like they were pieces of her past life. The photo frame from their road trip to Texas, the ceramic lamp Ethan bought after breaking the first one during a careless argument, the small plant she had been keeping alive for months. Her emotions swung between sadness, tenderness, and fear. She opened the sliding door and stepped onto the backyard deck. The wooden boards felt cool under her bare feet. She hugged her arms, letting the breeze wrap around her like a fragile shield. How long has it been since he held me without being in a rush? How long since we talked without someone raising their voice? How long since I felt safe? The truth cut deep. It had been months, maybe longer. She took a deep breath and really decided that if Ethan came home willing to rebuild, she would meet him halfway, but she wouldn't disappear into him again. Not this time. Because love without boundaries wasn't love. It was sacrifice. And she was done bleeding just to keep someone else warm. Ethan returned home around noon. He stood outside the door for a long moment, staring at the handle as if it were the heaviest thing in the world. He inhaled, exhaled, and finally stepped inside. Ava was sitting on the couch, knees pulled close, hair falling softly over her shoulders. She looked up the moment he entered. Their eyes met quietly, painfully, honestly. I'm here, Ethan said softly. I can see that, she whispered. He walked toward her, slowly, like approaching something delicate. I thought a lot about what you said, he began. And you're right, Ava. I shut you out. I let stress get to me. I let anger speak for me. I forgot you are not someone to be handled with hardness, but someone to be held. Her eyes softened, but didn't fully trust yet. Words are beautiful, Ethan, but I need consistency, not promises. He nodded, accepting the truth without flinching. I won't ask you to trust me right away. I know I have to earn that back. I just want us to start again, slowly, gently. Ava's voice cracked slightly. Do you even remember the last time we sat together without fighting? A beat of silence. Then Ethan sat on the floor in front of her, leaning against the couch. Let's start now, he whispered. The simplicity of the gesture broke something inside her in a good way. She slid down from the couch and sat beside him on the rug. For a moment, they just breathed together. No excuses, no blame, no loud voices. Just two people who once loved fiercely, learning how to love gently again. Later that evening, the tension in the house had melted into a fragile peace. Ethan was chopping vegetables for dinner, an attempt to make Ava's favorite garlic basil pasta, while she washed tomatoes at the sink. You're cutting them too big, she teased softly. He glanced at her, eyes warm. I'm out of practice. That's okay, she said, cutting one herself. We'll learn again. A faint smile tugged at his lips. Together? Together, she whispered. The energy between them shifted softly, subtly, beautifully. It wasn't romantic yet, not fully, but it wasn't broken either. It was something new, like the first steps of a shy reconciliation. Midway through dinner, the rain that had threatened all day finally began to fall soft at first, and then heavier, drumming gently on the roof. Ava looked at the window, mesmerized. I love the sound of rain, she said. I remember, he replied. She looked at him, really looked at him, and something in his expression disarmed her. Was it vulnerability, regret, or just love finally learning to breathe again? After dinner, they stepped onto the porch to watch the rain. Ava wrapped a blanket around her shoulders. Without speaking, Ethan stepped beside her, careful not to touch her unless she invited it. For the first time in many months, the silence between them wasn't tense. It was comforting. I don't want us to fall apart, Ethan, she finally whispered. He turned to her. Then let me hold you together. Ava hesitated, then leaned slightly toward him. Just a little. Just enough. Ethan wrapped the blanket around them both, slow and gentle, giving her space to pull away any time she wanted. She didn't. Her head rested lightly against his shoulder. You feel different today, she murmured. I am, he whispered, because losing you, even the thought of it, woke something up in me. She closed her eyes, letting his words sink into the bruised places inside her. Maybe this was the beginning she thought would never come. And something beautiful, unexpected began to happen. Ethan didn't raise his voice anymore. Ava didn't shrink into silence. They spoke, listened, paused, apologized. They rebuilt slowly, brick by careful brick. One night, while folding laundry together, Ava looked up and said, "You remember when we first met?" He chuckled. "You spilled coffee on me. And you still ask for my number." "You smiled," he said softly, "and everything inside me changed." Ava's heart tugged. "We were so young, so hopeful." "We still can be," he murmured. Their eyes locked. The room felt warmer, softer. Ava stepped closer. Ethan inhaled sharply but didn't move, letting her lead the moment. She placed her hand on his chest. He didn't rush. He didn't grab her. He simply held her hand, kissing the top of her finger slowly. "I missed this," she whispered. "I missed you," he replied. And for the first time in a long, long time, their lips met, soft, tender, healing, not passion-driven, not desperate, but warm and sincere, the kind of kiss that didn't demand anything, only offered everything. Ava felt something inside her unlock a door she thought she had sealed forever. Ethan held her close, but not tight, just enough to say, "I'm here. I'm gentle. I'm trying." Tears slipped from her eyes, landing on his shirt. "Ava?" he whispered, worried. She shook her head. "These are good tears." Months later, they found themselves standing outside the same diner where they had their first official date. Ethan held the door open for her, something he had stopped doing years ago. "Thought maybe we could go back to where it all began," he said. Ava squeezed his hand. "Ethan, we're not the same people anymore." "I know," he said with a soft smile. "We're better." They sat at the same booth, ordered the same meals, laughed at the same old jokes, and the world suddenly felt familiar again, but healthier. Halfway through dinner, Ethan slid a small velvet box across the table. Ava froze. "Ethan, what is this?" He opened it. Inside was their wedding ring, the same one she had removed during their roughest weeks, now repaired and polished. "I don't want a new ring," he said. "I want our story, scars and all, because we didn't break, we rebuilt." Ava's breath caught in her throat. He held her hand. "Will you start again with me? Not as a perfect couple, but as two imperfect people who refuse to give up." Tears streamed down her cheeks, this time without hesitation. "Yes," she whispered. 1,000 times, yes. He slipped the ring onto her finger again, slow, intentional, reverent. And just like that, their love didn't restart. It reawakened. Because sometimes love isn't found in the beginning. Sometimes it's found in the rebuilding. Their love found a way back, and your support helps us keep creating stories like this. Hit like, tap subscribe, and stay with us for more emotional journeys.